Nahum, introduction by Jonathan Domingo. The book of Nahum is a brief but powerful prophecy that focuses almost entirely on one subject, the judgment of Nineveh. Where Jonah showed us God's mercy toward that great city when it repented, Nahum shows us what happens when that repentance does not last. It is a sobering reminder that while God is patient and merciful, He is also just, and His justice will not be delayed forever. The setting is important. Nineveh, the capital of Assyria, had once responded to God's warning through Jonah with humility and repentance. But over time, that turning proved temporary. Assyria rose to become a dominant and often brutal empire, known for its violence, cruelty, and oppression of other nations, including Israel and Judah. What had once been a moment of mercy is now overshadowed by persistent wickedness. Into this context, God raises up Nahum. His message is not directed primarily to Israel, but to Nineveh itself, and yet, it is meant to be heard by God's people as well. It is a message of reassurance as much as it is a declaration of judgment. For those who have suffered under Assyrian oppression, Nahum's words would have sounded like relief. God has seen, and He will act. The book opens with a description of God's character that sets the tone for everything that follows. The Lord is a jealous and avenging God, slow to anger, yet great in power. This balance is crucial. God is not quick-tempered or impulsive. He is patient. But His patience is not indifference. He will not allow evil to go unchecked forever. Nahum emphasizes that God's justice is certain. Storms, mountains, seas, creation itself is used to describe His power. The imagery is intense, almost overwhelming. It reminds us that God is not limited, not constrained. When He acts, it is decisive. At the same time, there is a note of comfort woven into this opening. The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble. He knows those who take refuge in Him. This statement stands in contrast to the judgment that follows. For those who belong to God, His power is not something to fear, it is a source of protection. The same God who brings down the wicked is a refuge for the faithful. The focus then turns fully to Nineveh. Nahum describes its coming downfall in vivid detail. The city that once seemed invincible will be overthrown. Its defenses will fail. Its wealth will be plundered. Its people will scatter. The imagery is almost poetic, but the message is clear. No amount of power or prestige can shield a nation from God's judgment. One of the key themes in Nahum is the illusion of security. Nineveh trusted in its strength, its walls, its armies, its reputation. It believed itself untouchable, but Nahum dismantles this confidence. What seems strong can be brought low. What appears permanent can be removed. Human power, no matter how great, is temporary in the face of God's authority. The reasons for Nineveh's judgment are also made clear. Violence, deceit, exploitation, these are not hidden sins. They are central to the identity of the empire. Nahum describes Nineveh as a city of bloodshed, full of lies and plunder. Its success has been built on the suffering of others. This is why judgment comes. God's justice is not arbitrary, it is a response to real actions, real harm, real injustice. Nahum reminds us that God sees what is done in the dark, what is normalized in culture, what is justified by power. Nothing escapes His attention, and when He acts, it is not partial or incomplete. The destruction of Nineveh is total. There is no hint of recovery, no suggestion that it will rise again. This finality underscores the seriousness of persistent rebellion. While God is patient, there comes a point where judgment is executed fully. Yet, as strong as the message of judgment is, Nahum is also a book of hope for God's people. For Judah, living under the shadow of Assyrian dominance, this prophecy is a declaration of freedom. The oppressor will fall. The burden will be lifted. Behold, on the mountains the feet of Him who brings good news, Nahum says, echoing a theme of deliverance. This is important. God's judgment on evil is also an act of deliverance for those who have suffered under it. Justice is not only about punishment, it is about restoration of what has been broken, protection of what has been oppressed. The book of Nahum, then, holds together two realities. God is patient, but not passive. God is merciful, but not unjust. For us today, Nahum can be a challenging book. It confronts us with a side of God that is often difficult to fully embrace, the certainty of His judgment. In a world that often emphasizes tolerance and minimizes accountability, Nahum reminds us that evil has consequences and that God will not overlook it indefinitely. At the same time, it offers reassurance. In moments when injustice seems to prevail, when wrong appears to go unanswered, Nahum declares that God is not indifferent. He sees, he knows, and he will act. His timing may not align with ours, but his justice is sure. It also calls us to examine where we place our trust. Are we relying on strength, success, or security that can ultimately fail? Or are we taking refuge in the Lord, who alone is unshakable? The book of Nahum is not comfortable, but it is necessary. It reminds us that God's character includes both mercy and justice, and that both are expressions of His goodness. It assures us that evil will not have the final word, and that those who trust in Him will find refuge, even in the midst of upheaval. And in that assurance, we find both a warning and a hope, a warning against pride and persistent sin, and a hope that God's justice will ultimately set things right. Nahum, the burden of Nineveh. The book of the vision of Nahum the Elkishite. God is jealous, and the Lord revengeth. The Lord revengeth, and is furious. The Lord will take vengeance on his adversaries, and he reserveth wrath for his enemies. The Lord is slow to anger, and great in power, and will not at all acquit the wicked. The Lord hath his way in the whirlwind and in the storm, and the clouds are the dust of his feet. He rebuketh the sea, and maketh it dry, and drieth up all the rivers. Bashan languisheth, and Carmel, and the flower of Lebanon languisheth. The mountains quake at him, and the hills melt, and the earth is burned at his presence, yea, the world, and all that dwell therein. Who can stand before his indignation, and who can abide in the fierceness of his anger? His fury is poured out like fire, and the rocks are thrown down by him. The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knoweth them that trust in him. But with an overrunning flood he will make an utter end of the place thereof, and darkness shall pursue his enemies. What do ye imagine against the Lord? He will make an utter end. Affliction shall not rise up the second time. For while they be folden together as thorns, and while they are drunken as drunkards, they shall be devoured as stubble fully dry. There is one come out of thee, that imagineth evil against the Lord, a wicked counselor. Thus saith the Lord, though they be quiet, and likewise many, yet thus shall they be cut down, when he shall pass through. Though I have afflicted thee, I will afflict thee no more. For now will I break his yoke from off thee, and will burst thy bonds in sunder. And the Lord hath given a commandment concerning thee, that no more of thy name be sown. Out of the house of thy gods will I cut off the graven image and the molten image. I will make thy grave. For thou art vile. Behold upon the mountains the feet of him that bringeth good tidings, that publisheth peace. O Judah, keep thy solemn feasts, perform thy vows, for the wicked shall no more pass through thee. He is utterly cut off. He that dasheth in pieces is come up before thy face. Keep the munition, watch the way, make thy loins strong, fortify thy power mightily. For the Lord hath turned away the excellency of Jacob, as the excellency of Israel. For the emptiers have emptied them out, and marred their vine branches. The shield of his mighty men is made red, the valiant men are in scarlet. The chariots shall be with flaming torches in the day of his preparation, and the fir trees shall be terribly shaken. The chariots shall rage in the streets, they shall jostle one against another in the broad ways. They shall seem like torches, they shall run like the lightnings. He shall recount his worthies, they shall stumble in their walk. They shall make haste to the wall thereof, and the defense shall be prepared. The gates of the rivers shall be opened, and the palace shall be dissolved. And Huzzab shall be led away captive, she shall be brought up, and her maids shall lead her as with the voice of doves, tabering upon their breasts. But Nineveh is of old like a pool of water, yet they shall flee away. Stand, stand, shall they cry, but none shall look back. Take ye the spoil of silver, take the spoil of gold, for there is none end of the store, and glory out of all the pleasant furniture. She is empty, and void, and waste, and the heart melteth, and the knees smite together, and much pain is in all loins, and the faces of them all gather blackness. Where is the dwelling of the lions, and the feeding place of the young lions, where the lion, even the old lion, walked, and the lions whelp, and none made them afraid? The lion did tear in pieces enough for his whelps, and strangled for his lionesses, and filled his holes with prey, and his dens with ravin. Behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will burn her chariots in the smoke, and the sword shall devour thy young lions, and I will cut off thy prey from the earth, and the voice of thy messenger shall no more be heard. Woe to the bloody city! It is all full of lies and robbery, the prey departeth not. The noise of a whip, and the noise of the rattling of the wheels, and of the prancing horses, and of the jumping chariots. The horseman lifteth up both the bright sword and the glittering spear, and there is a multitude of slain, and a great number of carcasses, and there is none end of their corpses. They stumble upon their corpses, because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations through her whoredoms, and families through her witchcrafts. Behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will show the nations thy nakedness, and the kingdoms thy shame. And I will cast abominable filth upon thee, and make thee vile, and will set thee as a gazing stock. And it shall come to pass that all they that look upon thee shall flee from thee, and say, Nineveh is laid waste. Who will bemoan her? When shall I seek comforters for thee? Art thou better than populous No, that was situate among the rivers, that had the waters round about it, whose rampart was the sea, and her wall was from the sea? Ethiopia and Egypt were her strength, and it was infinite. Put and Lubim were thy helpers, yet was she carried away. She went into captivity. Her young children also were dashed in pieces at the top of all the streets, and they cast lots for her honorable men, and all her great men were bound in chains. Thou also shalt be drunken. Thou shalt be hid. Thou also shalt seek strength because of the enemy. All thy strongholds shall be like fig trees with the first-ripe figs. If they be shaken, they shall even fall into the mouth of the eater. Behold, thy people in the midst of thee are women. The gates of thy land shall be set wide open unto thine enemies. The fire shall devour thy bars. Draw thee waters for the siege, fortify thy strongholds. Go into clay, and tread the mortar, make strong the brickkiln. There shall the fire devour thee. The sword shall cut thee off, it shall eat thee up like the cankerworm. Make thyself many as the cankerworm, make thyself many as the locusts. Thou hast multiplied thy merchants above the stars of heaven, the cankerworm spoileth, and fleeth away. Thy crown are as the locusts, and thy captains as the great grasshoppers, which camp in the hedges in the cold day. But when the sun ariseth they flee away, and their place is not known where they are. Thy shepherds slumber, O king of Assyria. Thy nobles shall dwell in the dust. Thy people is scattered upon the mountains, and no man gathereth them. There is no healing of thy bruise, thy wound is grievous. All that hear the bruit of thee shall clap the hands over thee. For upon whom hath not thy wickedness passed continually? Nahum